The Canadian Taxpayers Federation says this pay increase needs to be scrapped altogether, considering the inequities between private sector and government jobs. Well, to talk more on this, joining us now is Mr. Franco Terrazzano, Alberta Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Always great having you on Forum Daily, sir.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me on today.
Now, we spoke a little on salary ranges in our intro, but let's get into specific numbers, Mr. Terrazzano. How much money in pay raises are we talking about here for individual MPs and other government officials?
Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that a pandemic and severe economic downturn that we're facing right now is probably the worst possible time for our politicians to be padding their wallets. But like a cruel April Fool's joke for taxpayers, our MPs are set to get a pay raise on April 1st. And the pay raise breaks down to about $3,200 for your backbench MP. It's over $6,000 for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. That's what we're estimating. And it's important to remember here that our politicians are very well compensated in Canada. Your basic MP is making over $180,000. The Prime Minister is making well over $300,000. So I think many struggling taxpayers are rightly going to see this pay raise as a slap in the face.
And how has this pay raise been impacted over the years? Has it decreased or increased gradually?
Well, this is an annual automatic pay change, and this is the second pay increase that we're seeing for MPs during this COVID-19 downturn. I mean, we've been in this downturn with COVID-19 for a year now. So why is it taking so long for MPs to get off their butts and to actually make some change here for taxpayers? And I need to point out that there is precedent to stop the automatic pay increase. We saw that under the Harper government in response to that 08-09 recession. And we've also seen politicians all over the world take a pay cut almost right away. When COVID-19 first happened, we saw New Zealand's prime minister, ministers, and top bureaucrats take a 20% pay cut to show solidarity with struggling taxpayers. And we need to see something like that here.
Now, last spring, leaders were facing some criticism for accepting this pay increase. Do we have any promises to donate these pay increases as previous MPs did last year?
Well, we do. We've got correspondence from about 90 members of parliament who have said either that they are against this automatic pay raise or that they're going to be donating that money to charity. And you know what? That's all fine and dandy, but it's not enough because we shouldn't be seeing taxpayers paying for pay raises for MPs, especially during this severe economic downturn. So what we want to see is something similar to what we saw in New Zealand, what we're seeing in other parts of Canada. We've seen politicians, councillors in Halifax, councillors in Lethbridge, Alberta, near my neck of the woods, who have actually taken a pay cut. And that's what we want to see from our MPs.
Now, we're speaking a little bit about inequities in pay between private sector and government jobs. In what other ways are disparities between these two sectors apparent, sir?
Well, you know, we have seen a budding divide between taxpayers and government employees across Canada, especially during COVID-19. You know, we've seen hundreds of thousands of private sector jobs vanish, but across the country over the last year, we've seen an increase in the number of government jobs. And all that means is a higher tax burden for struggling families and struggling businesses who can least afford it. And, you know, I'm in here in Alberta, and through Freedom of Information requests, we've also found that nearly 30,000 government employees received a pay raise during lockdowns in 2020. So that's really a slap in the face for the many private sector workers who took a pay cut, who may have lost their job, or who may have lost their business and life savings.
All right, Mr. Terrazzano, about 30 seconds left, but what can Canadians do to voice their concerns around this yearly pay increase?
Well, you have to contact your member of parliament, share with them your story that you're going through, and let them know that you do not support a pay raise, and that it's time for them to get off their butts and make something happen and stop the automatic pay increase.
All right, Mr. Terrazzano, always great having you on Forum Daily, sir. Thank you again for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me on.